Rhett and Link are two famous YouTubers who have this amazing podcast, but they used to be Christian, and you're not going to believe why they decided to stop following God. So we're going to be reacting to this video where it talks about the reasons that Rhett and Link decided to stop following God. Doesn't make much sense. So we're going to watch it to see what we can find out about a biblical perspective to see if we have any answers.
I'm not who they think I am. They think I'm clamping my eyes shut because I'm having such a meaningful experience, but I'm clamping my eyes shut because I can't find anything.
But I took a second to go one layer deeper and to look at the answers to the Christian answers that I had been given all my life. And that was when I realized that this Jesus thing was very, very messy.
Rhett McLaughlin and Link Neal, entertainers and YouTube sensations, hosts of the immensely popular Good Mythical Morning channel and Biscuits podcast, call it deconstruction. But that's really just another word for apostasy. In other words, they're just non-Christians now. And not just non-Christians, they're now essentially anti-Christians who are loudly proclaiming their new non-Christian worldviews. John Cooper, lead singer for the Christian rock band Skillet, got it right when he posted, "What is happening in Christianity? More and more of our outspoken leaders or influencers who were once faces of the faith are falling away, and at the same time, they are being very vocal and bold about it. Shockingly, they still want to influence others. For what purpose? As they announce that they are leaving the faith. I am stunned that the seemingly most important thing for these leaders who have lost their faith is to make such a bold new stance, basically saying, I've been living and preaching boldly something for 20 years and led generations of people with my teachings, and now I no longer believe it. Therefore, I'm going to boldly and loudly tell people it was all wrong, while I boldly and loudly lead people into my next truth. I'm perplexed why they aren't embarrassed, humbled, ashamed, fearful, confused. Why be so eager to continue leading people when you clearly don't know where you are headed?"
That's so true. I feel like so many people who deconstruct, that's their main mission. That's their main mission, to tell everyone, I deconstructed, I don't live for Jesus anymore, and this is my new religion, is not living for Jesus. That's what I feel like it's come down to.
Rhett and Link used to be missionaries and for Campus Crusade for Christ, now known as CRU, staff members. In February of 2020, both Rhett and Link each posted videos that were nearly 2 hours long explaining their deconstruction.
I had never looked at the evidence revolution. I had read books about it written by people who didn't believe in it. I was even further troubled, right? And so I'm losing my faith in the Old Testament, but I'm also losing my faith in those same Christian thinkers who have said all this stuff that, like, guys, this is solid as a rock. You can stake your entire life on these truths and they'll always be vindicated. This was like a kind of a breath of fresh air for me, honestly, coming to California with all these doubts. I found these Christians who had these doubts, Christians who saw the Bible differently. But I took a second to go one layer deeper and to look at the answers to the Christian answers that I had been given all my life. And that was when I realized that this Jesus thing was very, very messy. By far, to me personally, the most compelling and seemingly reasonable view was that the Gospels appear to be a mix of religious propaganda as well as actual history. I was creating God in my own image, as opposed to God creating me in his image.
I remember after church every Sunday, I would tell Christy, I'm not who they think I am. They think I'm clamping my eyes shut because I'm having such a meaningful experience, but I'm clamping my eyes shut because I can't find anything. I felt fed up with this phony feeling every week, and I felt like it was on me, but I started to question if it was worth it. You just can't know. And I started to feel it was more likely that he didn't actually raise from the dead.
Of course, nothing Rhett or Link said are unanswerable questions for Christians. They argue against apologists like Lee Strobel, Josh McDowell, Tim Keller, and Ravi Zacharias. But not only are Rhett and Link's arguments not at all conclusive.
You know, my number one pet peeve when it comes to the culture war and origins is that people will allow evolutionists to talk about evolution like it's fact, like it's absolutely proven.
That's so true. So many people like to talk about evolution as that's the scientific fact and you should believe in it, and whoever doesn't believe in it is dumb. But everyone knows that evolution is still a theory, something that no one can prove. And that's a problem right there. And they make fun of Christians and they make fun of them for not being able to prove exactly what Jesus did or whatever. But they're kind of doing the same thing. It's their own religion.
On our side than there is on theirs. And there's more presupposition on their side than there is on ours.
They never mention deeper, philosophical, arguably stronger arguments made by apologists such as Gordon Clark, Greg Bonson, and Cornelius Van Til.
And truth. Scripture teaches us that God upholds the world and carries the universe along to its intended destination. Therefore, we have a justification that satisfies the preconditions necessary for the intelligibility of the uniformity in nature. All human experience, let me say it again, all human experience depends upon the uniformity in nature. All human experience is dependent upon the principle of induction. Our opponents will assume this all night. They're doing it right now. They'll not, however, be able to justify their appeals to it given their atheistic presuppositions. The Christian worldview denies what atheists like Dr. Clark and Mr. Ellis claim about reality, that it is simply matter in motion or that all that exists is the material universe. The Christian worldview maintains that there are material and immaterial aspects to reality and our existence, and will demonstrate their dependence upon the triune God.
In an article titled, "Let's Deconstruct a Deconversion Story, The Case of Rhett and Link," Alisa Childers notes concerning Rhett, he suggested that if all of these apologists and theologians were to recant their stories and change their opinions, their livelihoods would be at stake. Aside from the fact that most apologists have day jobs, this leads to a fair question. What would Rhett and Link stand to lose if they didn't capitulate to culture on an issue like same-sex marriage? Would Jack Black and Daniel Radcliffe guest star on their YouTube channel if they held to the biblical doctrine of marriage and homosexuality? How would it affect their revenue streams and net worth to remain faithful Christians in today's culture climate?
If someone's like, oh, these people who like make all these bold claims for Christianity, they can't take it back, because if they take it back, then they're going to lose all of their money and their livelihood. But what about you, Rhett and Link? What about what's at stake if you decide to continue to follow Jesus? That's not very popular. A lot of times you're not going to get, like he said, the guest that you get if you decide to take a stance for what the Bible actually believes. What the Bible actually believes is a lot of times unpopular to most of the famous people that you see, and they're probably not going to want to work with you. Therefore, you're going to get less money. You're going to lose more. It seems like you have more to gain if you don't follow Jesus and you don't follow the Bible.
Rejecting Christianity makes it much easier for Rhett and Link to maintain and expand their popularity in a culture that hates biblical values.
The big thing in our culture, and the problem that is coming that people have to deal with, is, do they want to live for themselves? Do they want to follow their own ideology, their own God? Do they want to do what's best for them, or do they want to follow God? I believe that's what it really comes down to. Does it really come down to if God exists or if Jesus really resurrected from the dead? Yes, obviously, if Jesus resurrected from the dead, that's the most important thing. But it's really easy for people to be like, God doesn't exist. Jesus didn't resurrect from the dead. Therefore, I can live however I want. I can do what I want. I can live for myself and live for all of the worldly pleasures then, because this God doesn't exist. But if God does exist, you can't do those things. You can't live for the world, because you know that you're going to have to stand before God one day. You're going to have to be judged on the final judgment day. And it's easier to say, God doesn't exist. I'll do whatever I want. It's fine. I encourage you guys. It's so worth it to follow Jesus. It's so worth it to experience God's love because that's why you were designed for a creator. That's why you were designed to live for him. So I encourage you guys to do that today. If you're wondering, if you're curious, I pray that you just ask God. You try this one time. Say, God, show yourself truly to me because I'm truly trying to experience you. I encourage you guys to do that today. Let me know if you have any questions. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. I'm making videos almost every day. Mike Joyful Exile for making this video. It's a great one.